Well, I was happy to hear Barroso say that he thought that that was a reasonable request and that he viewed it favorably. How easy it is to really move these funds, frankly, these are very slow-moving, they're structural funds, and they are structural in more ways than one. They really are rather slow-moving, slow dispersing. I wouldn't expect a very rapid moves. But anyway, the fact that, Cyprus is very small, and just a bit more money from structural funds can go a long way, and Europe would really be well advised to provide that. It would help the country overcome what's going to be a very, very harsh hit. As Barroso says, we don't know, but the truth of the matter is that it's likely to be above 10 to 15% contraction in the economy. Some private analysts put it as much as 20%, and certainly they will need all the help they can get.
Mr. Leipold, late Thursday, Cyprus's central bank lifted all bank restrictions on payments up to 300,000 euros. The capital controls were put in place to prevent a run on the banks. Will the central bank's moves help the domestic businesses, or is the damage from not paying suppliers and employees already done?
Well, there's undoubtedly been some damage, but I think that the capital controls have been applied rather reasonably and flexibly. They are lifting them gradually. It is a great damage, of course, in general, that there should be capital controls in the Eurozone. It does mean that a Cypriot euro in a Cypriot bank is somehow not the same to a euro anywhere else, and this, of course, makes somewhat a mockery of monetary union itself. But I don't think that the damage to the economy of the capital restrictions so far is not something that can be overcome by their gradual lifting, and I hope that they will be overcome quickly.
Well, the head of Cyprus's central bank accused the government of attacking the institution's independence by rescinding the appointment of a deputy governor and by attempting to sell the nation's gold reserves without the bank's consent. Is the independence of Cyprus's central bank being threatened?
Well, apparently the ECB itself thinks so. There are reports that Mario Draghi sent a letter warning the Cypriots about infringing the central bank's independence. And it's not only the deputy governor and the gold sale issue, which the gold sale issue itself can be overcome, I think, without infringing central bank independence. But it's also rumors that the government intends to actually replace the central bank governor himself. And it is against this that Draghi in particular raised his warning, and I think rightly so.
Mr. Leipold, during today's EU finance ministers meeting in Dublin, both Ireland and Portugal were given 7 extra years to pay back emergency loans. What do the extensions say about how the two countries have dealt with their crises, and what message does that send to the bond market?
Well, I think it's a positive message insofar as it would certainly help Ireland, I think, exit the program on time in this year. It may not be enough for Portugal because also it suffered the setback, as you know, of the Constitutional Court ruling against some of the measures that they've taken. But it will obviously help them too. The finance minister himself seems to think that it's perfectly sufficient and that they are going to be able to test the market with 10-year bond issues soon. The bond markets have reacted certainly positively. The spread on German bonds, which was something like a record 16 percentage points in January of 2012, is now only it's still a large number, but anyway, slightly over 5 percentage points.
Mr. Leipold, we have less than a minute left. The ministers also endorsed the legal framework to set up a full-fledged banking union. It is set to take effect next year, but there is still that question of enabling Europe's bailout fund to directly recapitalize troubled banks. What are the pros and cons of that action?
Well, frankly, I see pros mainly. The only way to really break the link between banks and sovereigns is that of direct ESM recapitalizations. Obviously, the cons are if it's made available too easily, then there's the usual moral hazard issues. But I'm sure that is not a risk given the prevailing mood in Europe on the part of the northern core countries. So the sooner they move on that, the better. It's being delayed, and I think unfortunately it'll be a while before we see it. And and even then it'll probably be subject to a lot of conditions and limits. But it is a necessary step which the ministers fully recognized in June of last year, but have been very reluctant to act upon since then.